had the privilege of ministering for their senior pastor. And then he was sharing the testimony of where, they got for fellowship for the last 5 years. God spoke to a family that they should give them the place. And this family ran into a financial situation that they needed money. And they could not sell the place. And so they called the pastor and they said to him, what about if we sell the place and share the money equally? Because we can't just let you go. Whatever you say, that's what we're going to do. And then the pastor said, no. If you sell it, we have to look for land. When we get land, we'll start building. I think just allow it. So they took permission to cut a part that they were not using to sell. And when he was speaking to me, I said to him that the testimony of what you are sharing is not that they gave you a place. It's that if you ever doubted that God called you, they have confirmed your call. Because they were not there when God called you. But they say God spoke to them that give him that place. And that's, what they were demonstrating when it was their land to sell. It was their decision to make to say, look, we sold the land and they want to give you whatever we want to give you. But they said, no, we don't want to go against what God said. Why am I starting like this? Everything that Pastor started telling us to pray about is exactly what the Spirit of God, put in my heart to talk about. So when he started speaking, I said to myself, if Pastor Tosin does not know that he's called, I know. Hallelujah. And we must know that because, it's very, very important to know. Because last night, I just knew that this was a prophetic service. It was not going to be a usual kind of service. And so when he started in that dimension, I know that God is here. Amen. Some things that he said specifically, God said to me, that the words you hear is indicative of who you are. So if you go to a place where they just attend to your needs, that's exactly what God said to me, and he said it. It means that they are telling you that you are a needy person. They are doing you a disservice. They are telling you that, all your life, what it entails is about things. So they are doing you a disservice. That's what James says, that if you look into the word and you go away and you don't do what you heard, he said you have forgotten the manner of man that you are. So even if you have some people, they teach the doctrines of devils. Some people know more about the activity of the devil than what God is doing. Somebody asked me this week, said, about Antichrist. I said, I don't bother myself. You can never know the original by studying the counterfeit. The only way you can know what is counterfeit is when you know what is real. So people leave substance and chase shadows. And this is the reason why we are where we are as a people and as a nation. But remember that in Micah chapter 4, there was a prophetic word that had gone forth. Micah chapter 4 verse 1. Micah 4 verse 1. Can we have it on the screen quickly? Micah 4:1. Look at what he says. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be established as the chief among the mountains, and it will be raised above the hills, and peoples will stream to it. Now, this prophetic word is also repeated in Isaiah 2:1, verbatim. So when God is emphasizing something, it's because for surety it will happen. And we're living in those times. And that's why these services, I believe that God had put them together so that the people that will hear will respond to what they are hearing. Because what you hear is a picture of who you are. When God appears to any man, he doesn't address you by your challenges. He doesn't address you by what you are going through. He speaks to you according to the revelation of you that he has. When he saw Gideon threshing floor, he called him a mighty man of valor. Even though what he was doing did not show that. He was hiding. So every time that people address you according to what you are going through, they are doing you a disservice. Hallelujah. Look at what he says in Romans chapter 1. You know, there was something Pastor Tosin said last week that, you know, is where I want to take off from this morning. Romans 1:16. I love this scripture so much. So powerful. Romans 1:16. It reads, I'm reading the NKJV. It says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jews first and also for the Greeks. For in it, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith." Look at verse 18. "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them." You know, last week, Pastor Tosin said something so powerful that many times, you know, he talked about the outpouring. And he said many times, you know, we find ourselves in situations and in places where the Spirit is looking for expression through us. And then we say things like, "I beg, now office I did. Don't disgrace me." You know, you shut in the Spirit. You know, there was a scripture we read last week that you suppress that expression. This is what Paul was saying here. That many times when you come to those situations and you refuse to allow that outpouring to come, he said you deny God the power to save you. Many times when God gives you certain instructions and you refuse to embrace those instructions, you deny God the power. You see, and that's the problem with a lot of believers. We don't understand that we have been called to live the supernatural. We're looking for the spectacular. You see these lights, the way they are shining. That is how they're supposed to work naturally, right? But you know, if you know what it takes, all the wires, the connection for this light, you know, to just shine like this. But if the light wants to display and it begins to spark, that is not normal, right? That's what a lot of people are waiting for. Oh, God, do something. Move so that we know that you are God. Some people don't understand that to live in the supernatural means that you have good health. Some people believe that you must go, that pastor must pray for me to be healed. That's what a lot of people don't understand. For a long time, people laughed at us, Africans. Oh, they don't know anything more than prayer. But when COVID came, now they are wondering, what is keeping us? I'm not making light of people that, you know, are going through it. But I'm telling you that it is the supernatural that we are saying. Because we don't have the hospitals. We don't have the facilities. But somehow, God has kept us. You know, people don't understand the supernatural. They like the spectacular. But the life of the believer is to live supernaturally. Hallelujah. He said, you deny God the power to save you. He said, I am not ashamed. Every time I read this scripture, I ask a question, very vital question. Why will you be ashamed of something that is powerful? It is only because you don't know the power that is in it. If you understand the power, you will not be ashamed of the instruction. Many times the instruction of God looks ridiculous. But you see, if you don't embrace that instruction, you are denying God the power to save. That's why you see a lot of people calling unto God when the situation comes. Listen to me. Noah did not start building the ark when he saw flood. There was an instruction. When he was building the ark, people were laughing at him. Stupid man, what are you doing? What did you say is going to happen? If he was ashamed of that instruction, the flood would have destroyed him and his family. That's the problem of a lot of believers. When God is giving you a head start, God is telling you, you need to leave that office now. But you are saying to God, I can't leave that office. Everything is going well in that office. It's because he knows that next year something is going to happen and everybody will be sacked. But you say, no, everything is fine. When it then happens, you now begin to call, God, where are you? He gave you the instruction, but you were ashamed. He will give you a head start. He will tell you, but you see, the problem with a lot of us is that we like the spectacular. If God were to operate in that way, Jesus will not come in the way that he came. He will just appear somewhere. Imagine he appear in one corner of the earth and you see glory, you see angels behind him, and he says, I'm the Son of God. Who will not believe? See, but God does not come that way. That's why many times, the way God comes to us, we have certain expectation. If he's God, his voice must be like this. If he's God, I know what Pastor Tosin said last week. He said, if you have that consciousness, sometimes God can speak to you through your son. Sometimes God can speak to you through a movie. But if you don't understand, you are looking for the spectacular, drum rolls, thunder, rah! Hey, this is how God speaks. God can speak to you in this service. There is something that you need to do, and you have been dilly-dallying. When he said, my spirit will no longer strive with man. He said, because for the days of man is 120 years, right? He was not talking about how long man had to live. He was talking about Noah's assignment. Noah built the ark for 120 years. After that, the flood came. That's one of the first times that God gave a timeline to a man's assignment. So imagine that he did not respond to that instruction. He built that ark for 120 years. And you see, this is the reason why people are ashamed. People are ashamed of God's word because they don't understand the frequency at which it works. So when God speaks a thing, it is so. Even if it does not look like it. You know why? The scripture says that the entrance of your word gives light and gives understanding to the simple, right? So what he's talking about is that the word of God operates at the frequency of light. Now, what that means is, if you calculate the speed of light, scientists agree, that light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. Can your mind go around that? What it means is that, I actually looked it up last night. It means that if you are operating at the speed of light, you can go around the earth 7.5 times in a second. Think about that. So many times, when God says a thing to you, the Bible says, forever your word is settled in heaven. It is settled in heaven. But it takes time for it to manifest here. And sometimes, because of that manifestation, it can make you ashamed. How can they call Abraham father of many nations? He can't even father a child. It can make you ashamed. That's why a lot of times people don't embrace God's words. Say, all these Christianese, with all the churches you have. But I'll tell you what the challenge is. If you go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 10. 1 Samuel chapter 10. Let me read it. It's very instructive. As Pastor began to pray, I knew that we needed to look at this. It was the account of Saul and the prophet Samuel after he had been anointed to be king. From verse 5. 1 Samuel 10 from verse 5. Very quickly. It says, after thou shalt come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistine. And it shall come to pass, when thou art come there to the city, that thou wilt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place. Hallelujah. Coming down from the high place with a psaltery, and tabret, and pipe, and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy. Look at verse 6. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and you shall be turned into another man. Then look at the instruction. And let it be, when these signs are come unto thee, that you do as occasion serve thee, for God is with thee. There is something here that we miss if we don't carefully read the scripture. He said, after you have come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines? He told him, when you come there, all these signs is to tell you that whatever comes to your heart in that season, do as occasion demand, for God is with you. It was an instruction. It was clear to him. But when he got there, he did all that he wanted to do, but he missed the point of his assignment. The purpose why he was anointed of God, he said, is it not because I have chosen you to be commander over my people? It's to take away the reproach of God's people. And this is an anomaly. The place is called the hill of God, but it is now the garrison of the Philistines. And the Lord anointed and commander came there and he did nothing about it. See, that's the challenge that we face as a nation. Because every time that the hill of God becomes the garrison of the Philistine, and the anointed one that has been chosen to do something about it does nothing, eventually the Philistines will advance to the city. That's what happened. He missed it from this point. That was the reason why when David came to him and said, I will take that guy out, he said, you can't. The guy is a warrior from his youth. Where did he meet him? He met him at the hill of God. But he did nothing about it. The instruction was given. If he had taken care of this, there would not have been need for Goliath to advance to the city. I say many times when you read the Bible, sometimes it's good to read the Bible to your mind. Don't read your mind to the Bible. When you hear the word that David is a man after God's heart, we have all believed that it means that, God was not fair to Saul. He loved David. That's why he didn't even give him a chance. No, that was not it. When David showed up and he saw Goliath, he did as occasion demanded. He didn't see light to say, go and kill Goliath. He didn't see thunder. But there was something that David did, which was what Paul was explaining. When he saw Goliath, he said, you cannot be bringing this kind of reproach to God's people. I have to do something about it. And then he went to the king. And it was only to the king he revealed that he killed a lion and a bear. And this is what Paul was saying. Many times in our experiences, there are things that God has done in our lives that we have known that this is the hand of God. But you know what we do? We explain it away. Something told me. When it's time for a bigger manifestation, we begin to react. I beg, don't disgrace me here. I just want to do my work and go. I beg. Let me talk. Let me just be quiet and just do what brought me here. That is how a lot of people, we have missed the chance that God had made for us to take away the reproach of God's people. I know when that happens. When you miss that opportunity, you will leave a whole generation crying to God for what you failed to do. Until David rose up. And then this guy, you see, that was the reason why Saul allowed David to face Goliath. That was the reason. Because you know that the agreement was that if I kill your champion, all of you become our slaves. He realized that I missed it, and this boy got it. That was the reason. He said, you deny God the power. As a nation, how many times? So many people that God has spoken to at different times to do certain strategic things that will bring about a change. They will say, no, I don't want to look political. I don't want people to misunderstand me. Let me just stay with what I'm doing. See where we have found ourselves now. But you see, the news is this. The good news is this. Every time that Saul misses it, there is always a David. But you see, that is why this morning, I believe I'm speaking to Davids. You may not look like it. You may not feel like you have the experience. But I'm telling you, if you recall how God had led you to where you are, you will embrace that assignment. Because you see, when you do it, you will see the power of God. That's what Paul was saying in Romans 16. He said, you will see the power of God that saves. You think it was by the size of David's sling that he brought down Goliath? No. He didn't even have a sword. He didn't have the requirement. See, and these are the things that we use to discountenance ourselves. I don't have the experience. If they're looking for people, it's not people like me that should talk. Let me just keep quiet. And the answer lies within you. It lies there. He said, when you have seen all these signs, many times the things that we see God do in our lives, they are signs so that we can understand that you are that man, you are that woman that God is looking for. It's not about the signs. It's so that you can come to a realization. When Moses went to Egypt, it was not about the sign. Before Moses saw the sign, he embraced the call. He embraced the call. He woke up one day and the Bible says he came to him. How many times has he come to you and you have discouraged yourself? He came to him. See, these are the things that we talk about. If we talk about the generation that we live in, we call ourselves the woke generation. People will abuse Moses. Foolish man. Had the opportunity to be Pharaoh. Is it not easier for you to be Pharaoh and just tell the people to go? Why do you have to go and suffer for 40 years in the wilderness? Very stupid guy. That's what I'm telling you. See, this guy is not smart. Motivational speaking. Make yourself a Pharaoh and then tell the people to go. Simple. Life is not difficult. But you know what? If he had done that, the best he would have been was a Pharaoh. But because he left, God said, I have made you a God to Pharaoh. And that's what we miss many times. On the platform of compromise, I can get it another way. See, every time that you are enjoying whatever because of compromise, what you lost is greater. You just don't know it. You just don't know it. So David said, I will take this guy out. Because there was a day, sir, I was at the backside of the desert. A lion came. And he came to me. Take out this lion. And I stood up and I killed the lion. Another day, a bear came. He came to me again. Take out this bear. As I was passing, that thing has come again. But you know what many people will do? Those ones are animals. They don't have sense. This one are human being. You explain it away. Oh, that is headache. This one is cancer. I can't pray for it. You explain it away. So when you do that, you deny God the power to save. And the reason why God has given us, you know, last week was such a blessing. Outpouring. When we talk about outpouring, we're always looking up. But it's in you. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. It's in you. But every time we cry for an outpouring, we're looking up. It's in you. The answers that we seek today, even for our nation, is in us. It's in one from amongst us. But you see, every time that you miss it, can you imagine that Moses got it? 40 years later, he came back. Those people were still where they were. Did you know that Moses was not affected by what was troubling them? So you could have said, that's when Pastor was talking about Canada. I laugh at some people. I'm already in Canada. What it concern me? You don't understand. You don't have the mindset of a deliverer. It didn't affect Moses one bit. He was already living the life. He was already living in the king's palace. He was a prince in Egypt. But the Bible said that he counted the affliction of God's. He said he counted it a far weight of glory than to suffer the fleeting pleasures of sin for a moment in Egypt. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We have the power in us. The power to bring about a change in our nation. That's why I said last week that don't think about it that, you see, why is God speaking this thing to me? That's not my problem now is I'm just looking for a job. Yes, you are the one. Because even when Saul became a king, he was not looking for kingship. He was looking for his father's Mrs. Donkeys. When David came to the war front, he was not looking to join the army. He brought food for his brothers. And when he came, the force of destiny, he encountered and he knew that this is my call. I will take this guy out. How many times have you felt that way? Some of us, you see somebody sick, and he comes to you, lay hands. You say, no, I'm not a pastor. Call a pastor. Some of us, we are in certain places, and he comes to you. You need to witness to this person. Say, no, you see, I just want to respect myself here. I don't want anybody to laugh at me. Because you are ashamed. What if I pray for him and he doesn't get well? What if I witness to the person and the person does not answer? Oh, my friends will laugh at me. He say, every time that you refuse to embrace that voice, that instruction, you deny God the opportunity to show his power. Oh, David would have said to himself that this sling, what is this? But you see, was it the stone of David that really killed Goliath? Was it the stone of David? A drunk teacher was teaching his students, and he said to them, inside David and Goliath, who fight pass? And the student said, Shebi David killed Goliath. He says, David. The guys started laughing. If not before God, we help David. Goliath forgive and shit chop. That's to say that, look, it was not, David cannot now begin to write books, killing giants, how to kill a giant. No. It was just the grace of God. So he would just say, you know what? What I've learned in this exchange is that when you obey God, the things that can happen. That's why Paul said that boasting, you can't boast. It's the grace of God. It's the grace of God. Hear me, people. The answers, because you see, when men cry to God, God cries back to men. The answers that we seek is from amongst us. That's why God showed us in Scripture, when he wanted to deal with the problem of sin, God became man. To show us that, see, every time God will raise a man. He said, and I sought for a man to stand in the gap. A man. Many times you are that man. I am that man. But you see, we explain it away. Oh, you are looking for the spectacular. If thunder can take away the roof in Aso Rock, they will know there is God. But you are here. And this morning, we were led to pray. Some people were, let's just do. You see, Nigerian problem. I don't even like talking about it. No. When there's a stirring in your heart, it can be prayer. It can be something. I don't know what it is. But you see, don't discountenance that thing. Because if David had said, what is this sling? Goliath would have continued intimidating the people. So sometimes it can be your pen. You can be inspired to write something. Don't say people have been writing. This nation did not change. No. Understand that there is a difference. Oh, they would have said that there are a lot of people here that experience in battle. Let me just keep quiet and just give my food and go away. But today we are still talking about it. You see, it must now be beyond stories. It must now become that we see through them. That's what the Bible says in Romans chapter 5. That in the scriptures, that these things are written for your examples, that you can have hope. That David was a man like you. He had excuses. He had reasons to discourage himself. But he embraced God's instruction. And today we are still learning lessons from his life. Time will fail me to talk about people in scriptures that it did not make sense for them to stand up in their generation to say, this is what God is saying to me. Nobody saw it. They saw it. One of such people was the man Elijah. Elijah's case, you know, is like the time that we live in, where everybody is making mockery of the things of God. And so a lot of people are now keeping quiet. They are hushing. You know, the other day I saw somebody said something. He said, you know, people say things and you can see their ignorance. He said some vehicle, whether Kia had moved to Ghana to the assembly vehicle. And then one guy said, the only things we have in Nigeria is assemblies of God. That was supposed to be, I don't know what he meant by that. But it's lack of understanding. Because even we that are supposed to be giant killers, we are sleeping. You think that the prophecy we read in Micah chapter 4 will happen the way that we are now? The reason why it will happen is because people can see that there's solution in the mountain of the Lord's house. He said deliverers will come from Zion. Saviors will emerge. People will wake up and then begin to understand That if God is saying this to me in this season, it means that I have a part to play in God's plan. I am a deliverer more than this. I am not defined by the fact that I'm struggling to pay my house rent. That is not all that I am. Because you see, when David came to that place, did you know that? You know, I think it was Pastor Tosin last week we were talking. Did you know that David and Saul had met before? When Saul had his issues, he came and played for him. But I didn't remember him. But when he came with the head of Goliath, he remembered. So sometimes, you see, some of us, the reason why, who am I? Nobody even knows my name. Some people, God is giving you a song, righteousness. God can give you a sound that will bring about revival. Don't say that when there are people like this. No, don't do that. Embrace what God is saying to you in this season. It's a very critical moment. A man of God said to me many years ago, about 5 years ago, he said, there is spiritual vacancy. He said, a lot of the people you see sitting and you are hearing their name, he said their seats have been declared vacant. We must arise. We must arise. What Samuel said to Saul is what I hear in my spirit. He said, when you come to that place, do as occasion demands. Don't suppress the spirit. Don't say they will say my own is too much. Don't say they will laugh at me. Don't be ashamed. Oh, do not doubt in the night what you were shown in the light. Don't let people talk you out of what God is saying to you. Because you see, that thing that you are trivializing can be the hope of a whole generation. Don't trivialize. Don't look at yourself. Don't say that, who am I? What is my experience? What is my qualification? These words that you are speaking, no. See, don't reduce yourself. Jesus said it. He said the life of a man does not consist in the abundance of things that he has. It's not about bread and butter and all those things. Don't say to yourself that what I want to hear in this is how I will get a job. What if God is telling you that it is through you that he wants to employ hundreds of thousands of people? You must begin to see yourself in the light of the word. Don't say to yourself, oh, this church is just a small church. We can't. No. I believe that God is making this assembly a governing church. So you must understand that you must take responsibility. So when he inspires us to pray for the nation, don't say we are wasting time. No! There is something, because you see, he said, call unto me and I will answer. How will you know he has answered? He said, I will show you something that you did not know. There is a part for you and I to play. It's not just criticism. Every Nigerian is a good critic. Every Nigerian. Every Nigerian knows how to govern Nigeria. If you make me the president now, the first thing I will do, yeah. But it's not about that. It's about time for us to embrace this gospel of Christ. For it is the power of God unto salvation. For everyone. The question this morning is, do you believe? I'm not expecting you to give me the regular answer, yes. That you believe will be seen in how you are embracing the instruction. It will come to you. And you will know that this is God. Light will shine and you will know that this is my instruction. Something will change. And as you move, you begin to see the hand of God, that God had been waiting. Why is a lot of people are saying we are waiting for God to move in this nation? God said, I've been waiting for you to move. I've been waiting for you. Some of us need to start to write. God has given you the ability to write. Some of us need to start to engage, to start talking to youth in our community. God has given you. Don't suppress it. God calls that unrighteousness. Say they suppress the truth of God. Say, because what may be known of God has been revealed to them. It's been made manifest in them. That river is yearning for expression. It's yearning for expression. People are thirsty. They want to drink water. And here you carrying water up and down and say, where shall we get water? That's an anomaly. That's why Jesus said to that woman, if you knew the gift of God, you will ask me. This morning, my assignment is to remind you of who you are. My assignment is to tell you that those things that God has been saying to you in the corners of your room that you have been trivializing, you've been looking at yourself that it cannot be me. It cannot be me. Those things that you have been neglecting, that instruction that He's told you to build the ark that you have refused to build. Flood is coming. Flood is coming. For every Goliath, there is a David. For every Saul that refused to embrace God's instruction, there is a David. This morning I came to speak to Davids. There is no time for regret. Oh, some people will be regretting. Why did Saul miss it? If not for this Saul now, we will not be in this trouble. That's not why we are here. We are here to call, to make a clarion call to Davids, to say it is time for manifestation. I'd like us to bow our heads this morning and just speak to God. Let's respond to God this morning. I believe that Davids, some people are listening to me online this morning. David, wherever you are, this word resonates with your spirit. You understand it. It has come to you again this morning. Don't discountenance it. Don't explain it away. Embrace it. Because when you do, you will see the power of God that brings salvation.